What if I told you that a single moment of honesty could change two lives forever? What if a girl who had nothing gave everything back to a man who had everything? And what if that one act of kindness sparked the most unexpected love story you've ever heard? This is the story of Carolyn and Vincent. She was a construction worker who carried blocks heavier than her dreams. He was a billionaire who had everything money could buy, except the one thing his heart craved. But before their worlds collided in the most beautiful way, let me take you into the heart of Lagos, where our story begins. The alarm never worked in Caroline's small apartment, but she never needed it. Every morning at 4:30 a.m., her body would wake up automatically, as if her struggles had become her internal clock. At just 24, Caroline had the hands of a 40-year-old worker and the eyes of someone who had seen life's cruelest face. But what she also had was something rare in this world, a heart that refused to become bitter. Carolyn, wake up, we're hungry. That was Blessing, her 16-year-old sister, who had grown up too fast, just like Carolyn had to. I'm coming, my love, Caroline whispered, wrapping her torn hijab around her head. Her reflection in the cracked mirror showed a face that was tired but determined. A face that said, I will survive another day. In the small kitchen, Daniel, now 18, was trying to light their old gas stove. Sister, this thing is acting up again. Caroline smiled and gently pushed him aside. Let me handle it. You need to focus on your studies. Your JMB exam is next month. But Carolyn, how will I even afford university if I pass? Daniel's voice cracked with frustration. Carolyn paused, her heart heavy. She had been asking herself the same question for months, but she looked at him with eyes full of hope. God will make a way, Daniel. He always does. As she prepared their simple breakfast of bread and tea, Caroline's mind wandered to that terrible day 12 years ago, the day their parents never came home, the day she became a mother at just 12 years old. Caroline, Blessing said softly, Mrs. Adebayo next door said her husband might have worked for you at his new construction site. The pay is better. Caroline's eyes lit up. Really? How much better? 20,000 naira per week instead of 15,000. 20,000 naira. It wasn't much, but it could mean the difference between Daniel going to university or selling newspapers on the street. It could mean Blessing getting the school supplies she needed. I'll go see him today after work, Carolyn said, her voice filled with renewed hope. The Balagan construction site was like a battleground where Carolyn fought for her family's survival every single day. While other girls her age were posting selfies and going to parties, Caroline was lifting blocks that weighed more than she did. Caroline, those blocks won't move themselves, shouted Oga Taibu, the site's supervisor. He was a big man with an even bigger voice, but Caroline knew he had a soft spot for her because of how hard she worked. Coming, Oga. Caroline lifted the block, feeling her back scream in protest, but she had learned to ignore the pain years ago as she walked across the dusty site, balancing the block on her head with the grace of someone who had done this 1,000 times. She caught the attention of other workers. Hey, Caroline, you sure say you be woman, joked Emeka, one of the younger male workers. You carry block past some of us men. Caroline smiled, sweat dripping down her face. Nah hunger, give me power, my brother. When bell no full body, go get strength way, know about. The workers laughed, but there was respect in their voices. They all knew Caroline's story. They all knew she was not here by choice, but by necessity, and they all admired how she never complained, never gave up. During lunch break, Caroline sat on a pile of cement blocks, eating her simple meal of rice and stew. She looked up at the tall building they were constructing and whispered to herself, one day, I go build house for my family too. One day, we go live better. Little did she know that the man who would change her destiny was driving through the city at that exact moment, thinking about the very same thing, building a home for someone special. Meanwhile, in the upscale area of Victoria Island, Vincent Benjamin was stepping out of his private jet, breathing Lagos air for the first time in over 5 years. At 30, Vincent was everything the media painted him to be: tall, handsome, successful. His real estate empire spanned 2 continents. Forbes had listed him among Africa's youngest billionaires. Women threw themselves at him wherever he went. But as he sat in the back of his Range Rover, watching the familiar streets of Lagos pass by, Vincent felt empty. All his achievements, all his wealth, couldn't fill the void in his heart. His phone buzzed with notifications, business meetings, social invitations, interview requests, but Vincent ignored them all. He had come home for one reason: to find meaning beyond money. Double quotes, sir. Where should I take you first? Asked Bioden, his longtime driver and friend. Take me to the house in Lecky. And Bioden, yes, sir. No more, sir. Just Vincent. I want to feel normal for once. Bioden smiled in the rearview mirror. As you wish, Vinc. Vincent. But you know, say, nah, your money make you different from normal people, Abi. Vincent laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd had in months. That's exactly what I want to change, my friend. As they drove through the busy streets, Vincent's eyes caught sight of a construction site. Workers were moving like ants, building someone's dream. For a moment, he envied them. They had purpose, struggle, real challenges. His challenges were just numbers on a spreadsheet. Bioden, do you think money makes life easier or harder? Bioden thought for a moment. Vincent, money, nah, good thing. But the problem be, say, when you get too much of you go, forget wetin be real problem and wetin be fake problem. Vincent nodded slowly. That was exactly his problem. He had so much money that he couldn't tell who loved him for who he was and who loved him for what he had. That night, as Vincent lay in his king-sized bed in his mansion, he made a decision. For the next 2 months, he would try to live as normally as possible. No flashy cars, no expensive suits, no mention of his wealth. He wanted to meet people who would see Vincent the man, not Vincent the billionaire. He had no idea that in just a few days, his wish would come true in the most unexpected way. Have you ever lost something so important that finding it changed your life forever? What if I told you that sometimes what we lose is meant to be found by exactly the right person at exactly the right time? This is the moment when fate decided to play Cupid between a billionaire who had lost faith in humanity and a poor girl who was about to restore it. 3 days after returning to Lagos, Vincent woke up with a strange feeling of excitement. For the first time in years, he had no board meetings, no international calls, no pressure to make millions of dollars. He looked at himself in the mirror and smiled. Today, he was just Vincent, not Vincent Benjamin, the billionaire. He wore a simple green t-shirt, faded jeans, and a face cap. As he picked up his regular black wallet, not his gold-plated one, he felt lighter than he had in years. Today, I just want to be a regular guy doing regular things, he said to his reflection. He drove himself to Golden Gate Supermarket in his most modest car, a black Honda SUV. No driver, no bodyguard, no entourage, just him and the open road. Inside the supermarket, Vincent experienced something he hadn't felt in years: the simple joy of choosing his own groceries. He picked up snacks, drinks, toothpaste, and even spent 5 minutes deciding between 2 brands of biscuits, something his assistants usually handled. The elderly cashier smiled at him. First time shopping for yourself, Oga? Vincent laughed. How did you know? Nah, the way you dey look the biscuits like say you dey solve mathematics, she said with a warm smile. Vincent paid for his items, feeling genuinely happy. As he walked toward his car, chatting on phone with his mother in America, he was completely unaware that his wallet had slipped from his back pocket and fallen silently to the ground. It wasn't until he got to the petrol station that he realized his world was about to be turned upside down. That same morning, Carolyn had woken up with a terrible headache. She had worked extra hours the previous day, and her body was protesting. But Blessing needed new school shoes, and Daniel's textbooks were falling apart. Caroline, you sure say you fit work today. You look tired, Daniel said, concerned. I'm fine, my dear. Just need some paracetamol and something small to eat. Let me go buy for the supermarket before work. Caroline counted her money 3 times to make sure she had enough for medication and a small snack. Every naira mattered in their house. At Golden Gate Supermarket, she bought the cheapest paracetamol and a bottle of water. As she walked out, her eyes caught something that made her heart skip a beat: a black leather wallet lying near a parked car. Caroline looked around quickly. No one seemed to be searching for anything. The parking lot was busy, but everyone was focused on their own business. She picked up the wallet with trembling hands. It was heavy, heavier than anything she had ever held. When she opened it, her eyes widened in shock. Foreign currency, lots of it, more money than she had ever seen in her entire life. Business cards with international addresses, credit cards that looked like they belonged to someone very, very important. For a moment, Caroline's mind went blank. With this money, Daniel could go to university. Blessing could get new clothes. They could move to a better apartment. They could eat 3 meals a day instead of 2. Her hands shook as she held the wallet. She looked around again. Still no one. Searching. Caroline, think, she whispered to herself. This person must be looking for this wallet. How would you feel if you lost your own money and someone kept it? But a tiny voice in her head argued back. Caroline, you've been struggling for 12 years. God might be answering your prayers through this wallet. Maybe you're meant to find it. She stood there for what felt like hours but was probably just minutes, having the biggest moral battle of her life. Finally, she thought about her parents. What would they have done? What would they want her to teach Daniel and Blessing? No, she said firmly. This is not mine. Someone is probably panicking right now. Caroline walked back into the supermarket, her heart pounding. She approached the same cashier who had served her. Excuse me, Ma, Caroline said softly. I found this wallet outside. I think someone dropped it. The cashier looked at the wallet, then at Caroline with surprise. You mean you found this kind of wallet and you came to return it? Caroline nodded. Yes, Ma, the owner must be looking for it. The cashier examined the wallet briefly and whistled low. My sister, this wallet get money inside. Oh, you sure say you want return Yes, please, give it to security. When the owner comes, they should return it to him. The cashier stared at Caroline for a long moment, as if trying to understand what kind of person would return such wealth. You be good person, my sister. God go bless you. As Caroline walked out of the supermarket, she felt something strange in her chest. Not regret, but a warm feeling she couldn't explain. She had done the right thing, and somehow, that felt better than any amount of money. She had no idea that the owner of that wallet was at that very moment experiencing the worst panic of his adult life. Your card has been declined, sir. Those words hit Vincent like a thunderbolt. He was standing at the petrol station, trying to pay for fuel, when his world came crashing down. Let me try again, Vincent said, his voice slightly shaky. Still declined, sir. Do you have another card or cash? That's when Vincent reached for his wallet. His hand touched empty space. The panic that followed was unlike anything Vincent had ever experienced. Not because of the money. He had enough money in his bank accounts to buy 100 petrol stations. But that wallet contained his life, his U.S. driver's license, his international business cards, his Nigerian ID, documents that would take months to replace, and worse, if those documents fell into the wrong hands, his identity could be compromised, his accounts could be hacked, his entire empire could be at risk. That as Vincent drove back to the supermarket like a man possessed. His mind raced with worst-case scenarios. What if someone had already used his cards? What if his business rivals got hold of his information? What if... But when he reached the supermarket and spoke to the cashier, something beautiful happened. Yes, sir. A young lady found your wallet and returned it. Everything is intact. Vincent felt his knees go weak with relief. But more than relief, he felt something else. Amazement. Where is she? This lady who returned it. She didn't leave her name or number, sir. She just said to give it to security and left. As Vincent held his wallet, checking that everything was indeed still there, he felt something shift inside his heart. In a world where people fought over 50 naira, someone had returned thousands of dollars without taking a single cent. If she comes back, Vincent said, writing his number on a piece of paper, please give her this. Tell her to call me. That night, Vincent couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the mysterious lady who had restored his faith in humanity with one simple act of honesty. He had no idea that same lady was lying awake in a small room, sharing a bed with her sister, wondering if she had made the right choice. For 3 weeks, Vincent found himself looking at his phone every few minutes, hoping for a call that never came. He visited the supermarket several times, hoping to catch a glimpse of his mysterious Good Samaritan. Sir, the cashier told him during one of his visits, I think she must be a very busy person. Some people come here once a month to buy provisions. Vincent nodded, but inside, he was growing desperate to find her, not just to thank her, but because something about her act of kindness had awakened something in his heart. Meanwhile, Caroline had returned to her routine of work and worry. The incident at the supermarket felt like a dream. Had she really held that much money in her hands? Had she really given it back? Daniel had been accepted to study engineering at the University of Lagos, but the school fees were almost 500,000. Naira, Caroline, was working extra shifts, but the money seemed impossible to raise. Sister, maybe I should defer for a year and work to help raise money, Daniel suggested one evening. No, Caroline said firmly. You will start school this year. I will find a way. But late at night, when everyone was asleep, Caroline sometimes wondered what would have happened if she had kept that wallet. Would it have been so wrong to solve their problems with money that fell from heaven? She never regretted her decision, but she couldn't stop thinking about the owner of that wallet. Who was he? Was he a good person? Did he appreciate what she had done? She had no idea that he was thinking about her just as much as she was thinking about him. Cliffhanger ending. Little did Vincent and Caroline know that fate was preparing to bring them together again in the most unexpected way. And when it happened, it would not just be a chance meeting, it would be the beginning of a love story that would challenge everything they thought they knew about wealth, poverty, and what really matters in life, because sometimes the universe has plans that are bigger than our own dreams. What happens when two people who are meant to be together keep missing each other by seconds? What happens when fate gets tired of waiting and decides to take matters into its own hands? This is the part of the story where Vincent and Caroline's paths don't just cross, they collide in the most beautiful way possible. But first, let me tell you about the paper that almost changed everything, and the woman who changed Vincent's life before he even met Caroline. Caroline's heart was racing as she pushed the shopping cart through Golden Gate Supermarket. After 3 weeks of working double shifts, she finally had enough money to buy proper groceries for her family. Caroline. She turned to see the familiar cashier waving at her excitedly. Ma, I've been waiting for you, the woman said, practically running over. The man whose wallet you returned, he left his number for you. Caroline's heart stopped. She took the folded paper with trembling hands. On it was written, Vincent 08, OXXX. Thank you for your honesty. Please call me. He seemed very serious about wanting to thank you, the cashier added with a knowing smile. Caroline clutched the paper like it was made of gold. All the way home, she kept checking her bag to make sure it was still there. This could be the miracle her family needed. That evening, after cooking dinner and helping Blessing with homework, Caroline sat on their small balcony and stared at the paper. Who was this Vincent? What did he want to thank her for? Maybe he would offer her a better job or help with Daniel's school fees. Tomorrow, she said to herself, tomorrow, I will call him. She carefully placed the paper inside her shopping bag and went to sleep with more hope than she had felt in years. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The next morning, Blessing was cleaning the house with the enthusiasm of a teenager who wanted to finish chores quickly. Sister Caroline, I'm throwing away all these paper bags from yesterday's shopping. Oh, Blessing called out. Caroline was in the shower and didn't hear clearly. Okay, my dear, she shouted back. Blessing gathered all the plastic bags, paper bags, and what she thought was trash, and took everything to the big waste bin outside their building. It wasn't until the afternoon, when Caroline was ready to make the most important phone call of her life, that disaster struck. Blessing, where is the paper bag I brought from the supermarket yesterday? Blessing's face went pale. Which paper bag, sister? The one that had something important inside. Sister, I threw everything away this morning. The waste collectors have already come. The scream that came from Caroline's throat was not one of anger, but of pure heartbreak. She ran to the waste bin, tore off the lid, but found it completely empty. She sat on the ground next to the bin and cried, not the quiet tears she usually shed when things went wrong, but deep, soul-shaking sobs. God, why? She whispered. Why now? Why when things were about to change? Blessing knelt beside her, crying too. Sister, I'm sorry I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Caroline looked at her baby sister and forced herself to stop crying. It wasn't Blessing's fault. It was just ... life. It's okay, my dear, Caroline said, wiping her tears. If it's meant to be, God will make another way. But inside, her heart was breaking. 2 weeks after the paper incident, Vincent was driving through the outskirts of Lagos, visiting some land he owned, when something made him stop his car. An old woman was sitting by the roadside, her back against a crumbling wall. She looked tired, hungry, and forgotten by the world. But there was something familiar about her face. Vincent parked his car and walked closer. His heart nearly stopped. Mama Kemi, he whispered. The old woman looked up with confused, scared eyes. Who, who are you? Vincent knelt down in front of her, his voice gentle. Mama Kemi, it's me, Vincent, little Vincent. You used to carry me on your back when my parents were too busy to take care of me. Recognition dawned slowly in the old woman's eyes. Vincent, Benjamin's son, Isabella's boy. Yes, Mama, it's me. What happened next broke Vincent's heart. This woman, who had been like a second mother to him, was living on the streets. She told him how she had lost her business, her home, how she had been robbed and left with nothing. Without hesitation, Vincent took her to his house. He gave her a room, new clothes, proper food, and medical attention, but most importantly, he gave her back her dignity. My son, Mama Kemi said through tears, God sent you to find me. That night, as Vincent watched Mama Kemi sleep peacefully, in a warm bed for the first time in months, he made a decision. He would build her a house. A small, comfortable house where she could live with dignity for the rest of her life. I'll start construction immediately, he told his project manager over the phone. 4 bedrooms, simple but solid, and I want it done in 2 months. Vincent had no idea that his act of kindness was about to lead him to the greatest discovery of his life. 3 weeks later, Vincent organized a free outreach program at the local government secretariat, free food, educational materials, and household items for the community. He wanted to give back to the people of Lagos, the city that had made him who he was, but he also had a secret hope. Maybe, just maybe, the mysterious lady who had returned, his wallet would show up. Vincent sat in his black SUV, watching families collect their free supplies. His heart felt full seeing children smile as they received new books and toys. Then he saw her. The same cashier from Golden Gate Supermarket was helping to serve drinks. When she spotted him, she came running over. Oga Vincent, the lady is here, the one who returned your wallet. Vincent's heart stopped. Where? There, she pointed across the crowd. The one in the blue headscarf collecting rice. Vincent's eyes followed her finger and landed on a young woman who was carefully placing a pack of rice into a worn shopping bag. Even from a distance, there was something about her that made his heart race. Should I call her? The cashier asked excitedly. No, wait, Vincent said, stepping out of his car. Let me go to her. Caroline was about to leave the outreach event when she heard a familiar voice behind her. Excuse me. She turned around and found herself looking at a tall, handsome man in a simple t-shirt and jeans. He had kind eyes and a gentle smile. Are you Caroline? He asked softly. Yes, sir. Do I know you? Vincent smiled. I'm Vincent. You returned my wallet a few weeks ago. Caroline's eyes widened. This was him. This was the mysterious Vincent whose number she had lost. Oh my God, she whispered. I tried to call you, but I lost your number. It doesn't matter, Vincent said quickly. What matters is that I found you. Do you know how long I've been looking for you? Caroline looked at this man, this Vincent, and felt something strange in her chest. He was looking at her not like she was poor or different, but like she was important, like she mattered. Sir, I don't need any reward, she said quickly. I just did what anyone should do. Vincent shook his head. Caroline, what you did. In a world where people kill for phone credit, you returned thousands of dollars without taking a cent. You restored my faith in humanity. He pulled out his phone. Please, give me your number. And this time, I'll make sure we don't lose contact. As Caroline carefully typed her number into his phone, she felt like she was in a dream. This kind, handsome man had been looking for her, had been thinking about her. Vincent handed her a brown envelope. This is just a small thank you. Use it for whatever you need. Caroline wanted to refuse, but something in Vincent's eyes told her that accepting this gift would make him happy. And for some reason she couldn't understand, making this stranger happy felt important to her. Thank you, sir, she said softly. God bless you. Please call me when you get home, Vincent said. I want to make sure we stay in touch this time. As Caroline walked toward the bus stop, her heart was pounding with excitement and confusion. Who was this Vincent? Why did he seem so different from other men she had met? And why did talking to him feel like coming home? She had no idea that Vincent was watching her leave, already planning how he would change her life forever. But first, fate had one more cruel trick to play. The bus was crowded and noisy. Caroline squeezed into a seat near the back, carefully holding her handbag and the pack of rice from the outreach. To get her bus fare, she placed her phone on her lap and opened her bag. The bus conductor was shouting for passengers to hurry up and pay. "Madame, where's your money? We're waiting." In her rush to pay and get off at her stop, Carolyn forgot about the phone on her lap. She grabbed her bag, said a quick thank you to other passengers, and stepped off the bus. The phone fell to the floor and rolled under a seat as the bus drove away. It wasn't until she got home that Caroline realized what had happened. When she reached into her bag to call Vincent as he had requested, her phone was gone. Caroline sat on her bed and laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so tragically unbelievable. "God," she said, looking up at the ceiling, "are you testing me or testing him? Because if this is meant to be, you're going to have to help us." Meanwhile, Vincent was in his living room, trying to call the number Caroline had given him. But all he heard was, "The number you have dialed is not available." He tried again and again. "Maybe her phone is charging," he told himself. "I'll try tomorrow." But tomorrow came, and the day after, and the day after that. The phone remained switched off. Vincent began to wonder if Caroline had given him a fake number. But why would she do that after being so honest about the wallet? As Vincent sat in his mansion, wondering if he would ever see Caroline again, and as Caroline lay in her small room, wondering if she had lost her miracle twice, neither of them knew that fate was preparing the most incredible coincidence of all. Because sometimes, when the universe wants people to be together, it will move heaven and earth and even construction sites to make it happen. The question was, when they met again, would Vincent still be just a kind stranger to Caroline? Or would she finally discover that the man who had been searching for her was not just any man, but a man whose love could change her entire world? Have you ever had a moment when you realized that everything in your life was about to change forever? A moment when fate stops being subtle and starts being miraculous. This is that moment for Vincent and Caroline. But before their love story truly begins, Vincent is about to make a discovery that will test everything he thinks he knows about Caroline. And Caroline is about to learn that sometimes the person you least expect to save you has been watching over you all along. 2 months had passed since Vincent found Mama Kemi on the streets. True to his word, he had built her a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a quiet, safe part of Lekki. Today was the day he would surprise her with the keys. "Mama Kemi," Vincent said, helping her into his car, "I want to show you something." "Where are we going, my son?" the old woman asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. "You'll see." Vincent smiled mysteriously. As they drove through the peaceful neighborhood, Mama Kemi looked out the window at the nice houses and well-maintained streets. "This place is beautiful," she said. "The people who live here are blessed." Vincent's heart was racing with excitement. He couldn't wait to see her face when she realized that one of these beautiful houses was now hers. They pulled up in front of a modest but elegant 4-bedroom house with a small garden and a white fence. Vincent got out and opened Mama Kemi's door. "What are we doing here, Vincent?" Vincent pulled out a set of keys and placed them in her wrinkled hands. "Mama Kemi, welcome to your new home." The old woman stared at the keys, then at the house, then back at Vincent. My home. "Yes, Mama, this is yours. You will never sleep on the streets again. You will never be hungry again. You will live here in dignity and comfort for the rest of your life." Mama Kemi began to cry, deep, grateful sobs that shook her entire body. "My son, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to deserve such kindness?" Vincent hugged her tightly. "You loved me when I was small. You took care of me when my parents were busy. You taught me to be kind to everyone, no matter how poor they seemed. Today, I'm just returning that love." As they walked through the house together, Vincent felt a deep satisfaction in his heart. This felt right. This felt meaningful. This was what wealth was supposed to be used for. "Vincent," Mama Kemi said, holding his hands, "God will bless you with a wife who has a heart as beautiful as yours. Mark my words." Vincent smiled, thinking about Carolyn. "I hope so, Mama. I really hope so." He had no idea that his hope was about to become reality in the most unexpected way. That same week, Caroline was facing the biggest crisis of her young life. Daniel's university admission letter had arrived, and school was starting in just 2 weeks. The total fees were 500,000 naira, more money than Caroline had ever seen in her life. "Sister," Daniel said, his voice heavy with defeat, "maybe I should defer for a year. Work and save money first." "No," Caroline said firmly, though her heart was breaking. You're brilliant, Daniel. You scored high enough to study engineering at Unilag. You're not giving up on your dreams because of money. But late at night, when everyone was asleep, Caroline would sit outside their small apartment and cry quietly. She had been working 6 days, taking on extra jobs, but the money seemed impossible to raise. Mrs. Adebayo, their neighbor, found her crying one evening. Caroline, what's wrong, my dear? It's Daniel's school fees. Ma, I don't know how to raise the money. Mrs. Adebayo sat beside her. You know, there's a new construction site that just opened in Lekki. Very big project. They're paying 25,000 naira per week. It's more than what you're earning now. Caroline looked up with hope. Really, yes, but the work is very hard. They're building a big house, and they need people who can work fast and efficiently. I can do it, Caroline said without hesitation. I can do any work if it means Daniel can go to school. The next day, Caroline went to the new construction site in Lekki. The foreman, Ogabello, was a tough man who didn't usually hire women for the heavy work. Young lady, this job is not for small girls, he said, looking at Caroline's slim frame. Sir, please give me a chance. I've been working construction for over 6 years. I can carry blocks, mix, cement, do anything you need. Something in Caroline's eyes, the determination, the desperation, the hope, convinced Ogabello to give her a trial. Okay, 1-week trial. If you can do the work, the job is yours. Caroline threw herself into the work with an intensity that amazed everyone on the site. She carried blocks bigger than herself, worked longer hours than men twice her size, and never complained even when her hands were bleeding from the rough work. By the end of the week, Ogabello was convinced. Caroline, the job is yours. You work harder than most men I know. Caroline wanted to cry with relief. 25,000 naira per week meant she could raise Daniel's school fees in just 5 months. It would be hard, but it was possible. She had no idea that the house she was helping to build was meant for someone special to the very man she had been hoping to find again. 3 weeks into the construction job, Caroline had settled into a routine. She would arrive at the site before sunrise, work until sunset, then go home, exhausted but hopeful. Every week, she put aside money for Daniel's education. On this particular day, Vincent decided to visit the construction site to check on the progress of Mama Kemi's house. He wanted everything to be perfect for the woman who had been like a mother to him. He parked his black SUV and walked around the site, impressed by how quickly the work was progressing. The walls were up, the roof was almost complete, and the finishing work had begun. As Vincent stood near the building, reviewing the progress with his site engineer, a young woman walked past carrying a heavy block on her head. She was focused on her work, sweat rolling down her face despite the early morning coolness. Something about her looked familiar. Vincent squinted, trying to get a better look. The woman was wearing a dusty headscarf and work clothes, but there was something about her posture, her determination, the way she carried herself. Caroline, he whispered. The woman didn't hear him. She continued walking toward the building, balancing the block with the grace of someone who had done this thousands of times. Vincent's heart began to race. He followed her, staying at a distance, watching as she carefully placed the block where it was needed and went back for another one. On her return trip, Vincent positioned himself where she would have to pass him. Caroline, this time, she heard him. She stopped, turned slowly, and her eyes widened in shock. Sir, Vincent. They stood there for a moment, both too surprised to speak. Caroline in her work clothes, covered in cement dust, holding a block that weighed more than half her body. Wait, Vincent in his clean clothes, looking like he belonged in a boardroom, not a construction site. What are you doing here? Caroline asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Vincent looked at her, really looked at her, and felt his heart break and fill with admiration at the same time. This beautiful, honest woman who had returned his wallet without taking a cent was here, doing back-breaking labor under the hot sun. Caroline, he said softly, what are you doing here? Why are you doing this kind of work? Caroline's first instinct was to feel ashamed. Here was this well-dressed, obviously successful man seeing her at her lowest, her most desperate. But then, she remembered what her mother used to say, never be ashamed of honest work. She lifted her chin proudly. I'm working to pay for my brother's university education. This job pays better than my previous one. Vincent felt something shift inside. His gesture brother, yes. He was accepted to study engineering at the University of Lagos. The school fees are 500,000 naira. I'm working to raise the money. Vincent stared at her in amazement. This woman, who barely looked like she weighed 50 kilograms, was carrying blocks heavier than herself to send her brother to university. She had returned his wallet containing thousands of dollars, and now she was breaking her back for honest money to educate her family. Carolyn, Vincent said, his voice thick with emotion, put down that block, sir. Put it down now. Carolyn set the block down carefully, confused by the intensity in Vincent's voice. How long have you been doing this kind of work? About 6 years, sir. Since I was 18. And your parents, they died when I was 12. I've been taking care of my younger siblings since then. Vincent felt like someone had punched him in the chest. This woman, this incredible, strong, beautiful woman, had been carrying the world on her shoulders since she was a child. And instead of becoming bitter or desperate enough to steal when the opportunity came, she had remained honest and kind. Carolyn, Vincent said, stepping closer, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Sir, I need to get back to work, Carolyn said, glancing nervously at the foreman who was watching them from across the site. No, Vincent said firmly, your working days are over. Caroline's heart sank. Sir, please don't get me fired. I need this job. My brother, Caroline, Vincent interrupted gently. Do you know who I am? She looked at him confused. You're Vincent, the man whose wallet I returned? Vincent smiled softly. I'm Vincent Benjamin. I own this construction company. I own this land. This house we're building. It's for someone very special to me. Caroline's eyes widened. You own? I'm also the owner of Benjamin Real Estate, one of the largest property development companies in Nigeria and the United States. Caroline took a step back, overwhelmed. You're a businessman, Caroline. I'm a billionaire. The words hit Caroline like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, shaking her head. No, that's not ... You can't be. The day you returned my wallet, you gave back more money than most people in Nigeria earn in 5 years, but you didn't even hesitate. Caroline sat down heavily on a pile of cement bags, her mind reeling. A billionaire. Vincent knelt down in front of her. Caroline, do you understand what you did? You could have taken that money and disappeared. You could have solved all your problems. But you didn't. You returned it because it was the right thing to do. Tears started rolling down Caroline's cheeks. I don't understand. If you're so rich, why didn't you tell me? Why were you dressed like a regular person? Because I wanted to meet people who would see me for who I am, not what I have. And you, Caroline, you saw me. You treated me with kindness when you thought I was nobody special. Vincent stood up and looked around the construction site. All of this, the company, the workers, the machinery, it all belongs to me. But until I met you, none of it meant anything. You showed me what real wealth looks like. Carolyn was crying openly now, overwhelmed by the revelation. What does this mean? What happens now? Vincent reached into his car and pulled out an envelope. This contains a check for 1 million naira. It's for your brother's education and your family's needs. Caroline's hands shook as she took the envelope. Sir, I can't. This is too much. Caroline, that money means nothing to me. But what you did, your honesty, your character, your strength, that means everything. He helped her stand up. I have a proposal for you. Caroline looked at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. Come work for me. Not carrying blocks, but as my personal assistant. I'll pay you 200,000 naira per month. Your brother will go to university. Your family will never want for anything again. Caroline felt her knees go weak. Why? Why are you doing this for me? Vincent looked into her eyes with an intensity that made her heart race. Because, Caroline, in a world full of people who only see my money, you're the first person who saw my heart. And I think I'm falling in love with that person. As Caroline stood there, covered in cement dust, holding a check that would change her family's life forever, and looking into the eyes of a man who had just confessed his feelings for her, she realized that her life was about to change in ways she had never dared to dream. But loving a billionaire, when you're a construction worker, isn't a fairy tale. It's complicated, challenging, and full of obstacles that neither money nor love alone can solve. The question was Caroline ready for the world she was about to enter? And was Vincent ready to fight for a love that society would never understand? Because their real journey was just beginning. What happens when a love story that seems too good to be true becomes real? When a billionaire and a construction worker decide that their hearts matter more than what the world thinks? This is the final part of Vincent and Caroline's journey, where they discover that true love isn't about fairy tale endings, but about two people choosing each other every single day, no matter what challenges they face. Get ready for a conclusion that will restore your faith in love, destiny, and the power of an honest heart. 3 months after that life-changing day at the construction site, Carolyn was sitting in an office that felt like a dream. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the bustling city of Lagos. Expensive artwork decorated the walls, and she had her own secretary, Caroline Benjamin, personal assistant to the CEO of Benjamin Real Estate. Yes, you heard that right, Benjamin. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got here. That day at the construction site, when Vincent offered Caroline the job as his personal assistant, she almost said no. Sir, she had said, still in shock, I don't know how to work in an office. I don't have education, past secondary school. I don't know how to use computers properly. How can I be your assistant? Vincent had smiled. Carolyn, you've been managing your family's finances, taking care of 2 teenagers, and working multiple jobs for 6 years. You think running my schedule will be harder than what you've already been doing. He was right. Within weeks, Caroline had proven herself to be the most efficient, honest, and dedicated assistant Vincent had ever had. She learned computer skills at night, took online courses in business management, and transformed herself without losing the kindness that had attracted Vincent to her in the first place. But it wasn't just about work. Vincent had kept his promise about Daniel's education. The young man was now in his 2nd semester at Unilag, studying engineering with a full scholarship that Vincent had quietly arranged. Blessing was in a good private secondary school, and they had moved from their small apartment to a comfortable 3-bedroom house in a safe neighborhood. Caroline, Blessing had said during one of their weekend visits, "You look different. You look ... happy." Caroline had smiled. She was happy, but it wasn't because of the money, or the new house, or even the job. It was because of Vincent. Vincent Benjamin was not like other wealthy men Caroline had imagined. He didn't throw money around to impress her or try to buy her affection. Instead, he courted her with the same gentleness he had shown that first day at the supermarket. He would bring her lunch when she worked late. He remembered that she preferred tea to coffee and always ensured her office had fresh flowers. When she mentioned missing her parents during difficult decisions, he would listen for hours as she shared childhood memories. Caroline, he said one evening, as they were reviewing business proposals in his office, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you ever regret it? Returning my wallet that day. Caroline looked up from the documents she was reviewing. The question surprised her. Why would I regret doing the right thing? Because your life would have been easier if you had kept the money. You wouldn't have had to work so hard, struggle so much. Caroline set down her papers and looked directly into Vincent's eyes. Vincent, if I had kept your wallet, I would have gotten money. Yes, but I would have lost something more important. What? My integrity. My ability to look at myself in the mirror and respect the person I see. My right to teach Daniel and Blessing about honesty. She paused, and I would never have met the real you. Vincent felt his heart skip a beat. The real me. The Vincent who built a house for his childhood nanny. The Vincent who gives jobs to people who need them. The Vincent who sees past my rough clothes and dirty hands to something worth loving. That was the moment Vincent knew, with absolute certainty, that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with this woman. 6 months later, Vincent planned something that would become legendary in Lagos social circles. He took Caroline back to the exact spot in the Golden Gate supermarket parking lot where she had found his wallet, but this time, the entire area had been decorated with thousands of flowers, fairy lights, and a small stage. Vincent, what is all this? Caroline asked, overwhelmed by the beautiful setup. Caroline, Vincent said, taking her hands, this is where my life changed forever. This is where I learned what real wealth looks like. A small crowd had gathered, not celebrities or socialites, but the people who mattered. Daniel, Blessing, Mama Kemi, the supermarket cashier, some of Caroline's former construction worker colleagues, and Vincent's closest friends. Caroline Adebayo, Vincent said, getting down on one knee. You returned my wallet because you believed it was the right thing to do. Today, I want to return something to you. He pulled out a ring that sparkled even in the afternoon sunlight. I want to return my heart, which has belonged to you since the day you showed me what true honesty looks like. I want to return my future, which only makes sense if you're in it. I want to return my love, which grows stronger every day I know you. Caroline was crying, but they were tears of pure joy. Will you marry me, Caroline? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve the love of the most incredible woman I've ever known? The crowd held its breath. Yes, Caroline whispered. Then louder, yes, yes, I will marry you. The cheers could be heard 3 blocks away. Their wedding was like nothing Lagos had ever seen. Not because it was the most expensive, though Vincent could have afforded anything, but because it was the most genuine. Caroline insisted on 2 ceremonies. The first was a small, intimate gathering with just family and close friends. The second was a large celebration where they invited everyone who had been part of their journey: construction workers, supermarket staff, street cleaners, and yes, some of Vincent's business associates too. I want everyone to see, Caroline told Vincent, that love doesn't care about money or social class. Love cares about the heart. The most emotional moment came when Mama Kemi, now living comfortably in her new house, stood up to speak. Vincent, she said, her voice strong despite her age, when you were a little boy, I used to pray that God would give you a woman who would love you for your heart, not your pocket. Today, I see that God answered my prayers. She turned to Caroline. My daughter, you have chosen to love a man who has everything, but he has chosen to love a woman who is everything. Take care of each other. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. 1 year later, Caroline and Vincent were sitting in their living room, not the mansion Vincent owned, but the comfortable family house they had chosen to make their home. Caroline was reading while Vincent worked on his laptop. Honey, Caroline said, looking up from her book, I got a call from the University of Lagos today. About what? They want me to speak to the new students about perseverance and achieving dreams despite challenges. Vincent smiled. Are you going to do it? I think so. I want to tell them that sometimes your biggest breakthrough comes disguised as your biggest disappointment. Vincent closed his laptop and moved closer to his wife. What do you mean? Remember how heartbroken I was when I lost your phone number? And then when I lost my phone and couldn't call you? How could I forget? I was going crazy looking for you. Caroline laughed. But if we had connected earlier, would our story have been the same? Would you have seen me working at the construction site? Would you have understood my struggles, my strength, my character in the same way? Vincent thought about it. You think everything happened exactly as it was supposed to. I think, Caroline said, curling up next to her husband, that God knew exactly what he was doing when he made our paths cross the way they did. A comfortable silence settled between them. Vincent, yes, my love. That day when I found your wallet, for about 5 minutes, I thought about keeping it. Vincent looked at her with surprise. You did. I thought about Daniel's education, Blessing's needs, our rent, our food. Caroline's voice grew soft. But then I thought about my parents, and what they would want me to teach my siblings, and I realized that no amount of money is worth losing your integrity. Vincent kissed her forehead. And that's exactly why I fell in love with you. But here's the beautiful part, Caroline continued. By giving back what wasn't mine, I received something I could never have imagined. A love that's real, a family that's secure, and a purpose that's meaningful. Vincent held her tighter. Caroline Benjamin, you are the wisest woman I know. 2 years later, Caroline and Vincent were back at the Golden Gate supermarket, but this time they weren't alone. They were with a group of young people from Caroline's mentorship program, teenagers from poor families who were working to put themselves through school. This is where it all started, Caroline told the group, standing in the same parking lot where she had found the wallet that changed her life. Right here, I had to make a choice that would determine not just my future, but the kind of person I wanted to be. A young girl raised her hand. Mrs. Caroline, weren't you tempted to keep the money? I mean, you needed it so badly. Caroline smiled. I was very tempted, but I realized that how we act when no one is watching is what defines our character. And character, my dear ones, is the only true wealth that can never be taken away from you. Vincent watched his wife speak to these young people and felt his heart swell with pride. She had not just become his wife, she had become a beacon of hope for countless others. The same supermarket cashier, now a friend of the family, came over during their visit. Mrs. Caroline, she said with a big smile, every time I see you, I remember that day when you brought back that wallet. I knew then that you were special. Caroline hugged the woman warmly. And every time I see you, I remember that there are good people everywhere. ready to help when help is needed. As the sun set over Lagos that day, Vincent and Caroline stood together in the same spot where their love story had begun. Their hands were intertwined, their hearts were full, and their future was bright with possibilities. "Vincent," Caroline said, watching the golden light dance across the city, "what do you think our story teaches people?" Vincent thought for a moment. "I think it teaches us that love doesn't care about money, status, or social class. Love cares about character, and that sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is the right thing, even when no one is watching." Caroline nodded. "I think it also teaches us that God has a plan, even when we can't see it. Every disappointment, every struggle, every moment of doubt was preparing us for this." Vincent pulled his wife closer. "Caroline Benjamin, do you know what the best part of our story is?" "What?" "It's not the ending. It's that every day we get to choose each other again. Every day we get to write a new chapter." Caroline smiled, thinking about Daniel, who was about to graduate as the top student in his engineering class, and Blessing, who had just been accepted to study medicine on a full scholarship that she had earned through her own hard work. She thought about Mama Kemit, who had become like a grandmother to them and was living her golden years with dignity and comfort. She thought about all the young people they were mentoring, all the families they were helping, all the lives that were being changed because one person chose to do the right thing on an ordinary Tuesday morning. "You know what, Vincent?" Caroline said, her voice full of joy and certainty. "What, my love?" "Our story isn't ending. It's just beginning." And as they walked hand in hand toward their car, past the supermarket where a wallet was returned, past the construction site where love was discovered, past all the places where their separate lives had become one beautiful story, one thing was clear. Sometimes, the most extraordinary love stories begin with the most ordinary acts of kindness. Sometimes, losing something leads to finding everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, fairy tales do come true not because of magic, but because of choice. The choice to be honest when it's easier to lie. The choice to be kind when the world is cruel. The choice to believe in love when love seems impossible. The choice to see someone's heart when everyone else sees their bank account. Caroline and Vincent chose each other. And in doing so, they proved that the greatest wealth in the world isn't money, it's love.